me about why you're running as a Republican in House District 7.
Yeah, so as I watched what was happening in the Texas legislature and looked at the way our current representative was voting, I thought, you know what, I just feel forgotten. I feel like they're not paying attention to how the average everyday person is feeling, the burdens that we carry, especially as it relates to our finances and the cost of living getting out of control, property taxes, insurance. And as I looked at the voting that was taking place, I thought, you know, it really feels like they're making decisions and telling us how to live, but our country was founded on the fact that we, the people, are in charge, and they're really supposed to be representing us.
What are some votes that Representative Dean has taken? Because it sounds like you disagree with some votes he's taken.
I would not be running if I agreed with the votes. So,
what are some that stand out to you that were something you disagreed with?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a very small government person, and I thought that in general Republicans are small government. But what I found is there are some that are more socially Republican, like on social issues, but maybe not so much fiscally conservative. And so this last budget that they passed was the biggest budget Texas has ever seen, $90 billion more than just 4 years ago. And as we at home are sitting at home and we can't make our checkbooks balance, and we're not able to go on a vacation, we're not able to put new carpet in our homes because it just seems like the government's just continued to take more and more money out of our pocket, the last thing I want is for my state government to grow. I think that we've, especially since COVID, we've gotten used to the government solving our problems, but that's not how we were founded. We were founded on the idea that we were free and we had the ability to solve our problems.
So you'd want to reduce the size of government?
That is very correct.
How would you go about doing so if elected?
Well, first I'd go back to what was the purpose of government when we were founded. The purpose of government was to protect our rights, which actually it feels like our representatives have forgotten that. They're not stepping in to protect the rights of people when I believe they should. The second responsibility is safety. Safety where we can't take care of it ourselves. We need their help, and that's why we need police and fire, and absolutely necessary. We also have an education system. And other than that, maybe a little bit of infrastructure. Everything else should be left to the people. And we've gotten to the point where pretty much every avenue has a hand of government in it.
If you're elected, what would you say would be your biggest priorities?
My biggest priority, one, is to actually listen to the people of the 3 counties that I represent. I feel like that our voice needs to be amplified in Austin, not compromised as we walk through the door. And so one of the number one things I'm hearing from the people in the 3 counties is property tax. Every single year, they just take more and more money out of our pocket, and they do it without our permission. And as big as our property tax bills have gotten and how much they change year on year, it really is more like government-sponsored theft. It's not just helping your neighbor. We've gone way beyond that.
What kind of legislation would you want to introduce regarding property taxes or any of your other priorities for that matter?
Yeah, so there are lots of different ways I think we could go about solving the property tax problem. I love solving problems. And so the first thing I would start with is, what are the non-negotiables? Well, the non-negotiables is we need to have the basic functions of government, which we just talked about. We also, though, people need to be free. If they save up their money and they buy their property, they shouldn't be at risk of losing it because they can't pay a monthly payment to the government. And so we've gone way beyond actually being free and having property rights. And so those, in my mind, are non-negotiable. And so then you need to find, well, how do we accomplish those 2 things? Which I think a lot of times people look at it and say we can't do both. And I don't believe that. I think we can do both. And so, so I would have multiple pieces of legislation. I would ask most branches of government to decrease their budget significantly. I would recommend we go back to 2019 levels before COVID hit and make some really hard choices. The things that the private sector can do, we need to let the private sector do. The things that only government can do, government needs to do.
Because I believe there were some constitutional amendments that passed regarding property taxes in November. One I know relating to the homestead exemption. Do you feel those were a step in the right direction or not so much?
Unfortunately, they end up being more like marketing. If you were 65 or over, you probably got a decrease in your property taxes or they stayed the same. If you were under 65, I have yet to talk to anybody whose property taxes actually went down, even though we got these increased homestead exemptions, which are significant. Because of the way they do property values, nobody saw the benefit of that if they were under 65. And so unfortunately, it did not accomplish what it should have accomplished.
So you'd want to fully eliminate property taxes?
That is correct, yes.
And let's talk about, and I saw on your website, and obviously a big topic here in East Texas, water.
Yes.
What would you like to see done, regarding water across the region? Of course, as there's been a lot of talk about groundwater.
Yeah, there has been groundwater, surface water, it's all a problem. And so for over 50 years, the people of East Texas have been dealing with the threat of the water planters in Dallas-Fort Worth coming after their land and their water. And in my mind, that's just unacceptable. We are a free people, and if I own property or someone else owns property in East Texas, someone in Dallas-Fort Worth, and not even an elected official, just a planning board, should never have the ability to come kick me off my land. And so, people have been living under this threat for so long they can't make changes to their house, expand their ranch, or do anything because they're like, well, tomorrow it could just be taken from me. And as a free country, you shouldn't have that risk. And so the first thing I would do is I'd modify eminent domain. This summer, Brent Money had an excellent bill on eminent domain, and basically what it would do is basically say, Dallas-Fort Worth, you can only do eminent domain in Dallas-Fort Worth. Longview, you can only do it in Longview. You can't exit your area and declare eminent domain somewhere else. The other thing I would do is I'd modify when eminent domain could be used. Right now, pretty much for public use is all they have to claim. It should be public necessity, not public use. People should not just be required to give up their land because the public might benefit from it. It needs to be, we absolutely have to do this. There is no other option. And because our rights matter, and our government has forgotten that their number one responsibility is to protect our rights. And so in this situation, the number one responsibility, in my opinion, of our representative and our state government is to protect the rights of the people of East Texas, not say Dallas is going to do what Dallas is going to do and expect the people of East Texas to just roll over. And so, I do those two things as it relates to eminent domain. The other thing I would do is I would put a limit on whether or not water can be exported from our area to Dallas-Fort Worth. That should not happen without significant local voter approval. It shouldn't just happen because a board says it can, because it affects everyone in East Texas. And if you look at what's happening in Dallas, they use 50% more water on average per person per day than the rest of the state. And they don't do any conservation. They're expanding projects that require water, but they don't have the resources. Well, I'm a business person. You can't move forward with a project if you don't know where your resources are going to come from. And it shouldn't be an option to kick someone off their land to fund your greed, which is basically what I think is happening when you look at Dallas's growth. Even Dallas, the people I talk to who live in Dallas, they don't like this growth currently. It's way too fast, and their commutes have doubled. Their water bills have increased. Their electricity bills have increased. And again, the function of government is actually to represent us, not tell us how to live. And so if we don't want the growth because of how it's going to affect us, it shouldn't be forced upon us. And that is what it kind of feels like right now, especially when you live in East Texas. It feels like everybody wants our water because they want to grow.